Hey everyone, it has been so long since I've made a YouTube video or even done something like this where I'm sitting and talking. This last year, 2022, has been the hardest year of my life. And a lot of you have noticed that I have not been on the channel for well over 6 months, maybe longer. I can't remember when the last time I made a YouTube video was. My husband primarily does videos now, and I will kind of explain what's been going on because I feel like there's something very beautiful about people being vulnerable. And for as long as we've been on social media, I've always prided myself on being very genuine, very open. I'm an open book. I love talking to people. But 2022 was, first of all, there was things I was going through that I didn't even know what I was going through until it was already kind of too late. So a little backstory, just in case you're new here. My name is Carlene. My husband is John. He's the one who primarily handles this channel. And we have 3 children. Mila, who just turned 6 today, which I'm so happy about. She loves her birthday, and she doesn't know this yet, but we just planned a surprise birthday for this Saturday. Today's Thursday. So she has no idea, and all of her friends, it was a short notice type of thing, but all of her closest friends RSVP'd yes. So she's gonna be so happy. And then we have a 4-year-old, Zion, and then we have a 2-year-old Legend. So now we have 2, 4, 6 ages. I love it. So anyway, we have shared on here about minimalism and about decluttering and about cleaning and just lifestyle. And it's been such a nice outlet. About a year ago or so, October 2021, we purchased our first home, which was a huge step, and we were so happy. We definitely didn't know the challenges of home ownership because 2022, boy, was it a year. And we have shared about the renovation process and the buying process and all of that, but it was the mental aspect of it that really took a toll on me. So I'm just gonna dive right into it. I have been struggling very severely with depression and anxiety. And I've always had anxiety, but it was not always. I started having anxiety in around 2009. And I went through a season of depression when my parents split up, which was in 2009. And it was a lot of big changes. I graduated high school. It was just too much for me as a 17-year-old to process. And I was very depressed. And that quickly turned into me starting to go to church and meeting new people and having friends. And I really changed my life around in 2009. So by 2010, I was in a really good place. And anxiety would come here and there, once a month, maybe I'd have a panic attack or something, but it was nothing that was like, I don't know, nothing that was disrupting my day-to-day. So I always said, I'll never take medication for anxiety. I don't need therapy. And I ended up trying therapy in the past for like short term, but it was never anything more than a couple of sessions. So then something that I don't really share much on social media, and this whole story will wrap up. So thank you if you're here, because this is my life. And some of this stuff is really hard for me. So I, first of all, was recently diagnosed with pure O, which is pure OCD, so the more obsessive mental part of it. And it totally makes sense because throughout the years, people have asked me if I have OCD, and I'm like, no, because usually you associate OCD with people who are like very clean or organized, which I have been. So that's why people thought I had it. But that wasn't the type of OCD I was struggling with. I was struggling with mental. So I get very obsessed with things. I have a very obsessive personality, and it's always been that way. And when I get ideas in my head, I obsess over them. If I have a memory in my head, it's something that I thought was very normal to obsess over things over and over, like conversations or things that you've done, or just going back and trying to obsess over it, thinking that you can solve it. So that type of obsession. And I thought it was just something that everyone does. I didn't know that it was really harming me. So in 2022, we renovated, and that was hard. You know, with anything else, it disrupts your life because you're kind of working around it. We didn't have a kitchen for a while, whatever. It was kind of sad, but it was always with this bigger picture in mind. Like, we're gonna go through this short-term little thing to get to a long-term goal, which is having a house where we can raise our kids and feel comfortable in and love, and you know, that was the goal. And it happened. And then you know, we finished all the renovations around April of 2022, and we were happy. And you know, I was struggling with my anxiety and didn't really associate the two of them. And then it became the year of everyone getting sick over and over and over. Like, we all had a stomach virus that was the most violent virus that we've ever had. It was horrendous. Then this year alone, myself and my kids have had to get on antibiotics more times this year than I think my entire life. I can't even explain it. Like, my kids, this is the first year they've ever taken antibiotics. For me, I think I take antibiotics, I mean, maybe the last time was like 5 years ago. So it's just been sickness after sickness after sickness. And the reason I bring that up is because, first, the OCD. Second, I am a hypochondriac, and I have extremely bad health anxiety. This year was particularly hard on me because of everyone getting sick. I started to develop a huge fear around my kids and their health, and I started to really obsess over it to the point where I was convinced that at any moment someone was going to die. And I even saying it out loud right now makes me sad, because it was just a month ago that I was like, it was almost like I was already mourning one of my kids, because I had allowed these OCD obsessive thoughts to completely consume me, and I couldn't separate reality from a lie. And every time my kids would cough or get sick, I would physically feel ill, and I would be extremely scared. I have really dedicated my life to my kids, and just like every other parent does, we love our kids so much, and we want them to live long, happy, and healthy lives. So I just obsessed about their health. And like I said, I had no idea that I had OCD, pure O, and so I just kind of wrote it off as like, everyone's this scared about their kids. Everyone loses sleep at night. Everyone wakes up crying about their kids' health. And I didn't know that it was not normal until I had been doing it for months, and my therapist said, no, this is not normal. Like, you need help. And I ended up hitting rock bottom because of the renovations. And I don't even want to say this out loud, only because with anything you put out there in the world, there's always going to be someone who is going to make you feel bad. And there's always going to be someone who knows more than you. So even saying this, like, I don't want to get comments from people saying, oh yeah, like, you should have known. But sharing my story means I have to share all of it. So what really made me spiral into severe depression and anxiety is that I started to Google about the home renovation. For some reason, I just had this thought that this dust cannot be good for us. Even though we asked the workers, even though we left the house during the work, we still came back into the house at night or after the work was done. And so we were around the dust. And I remember just Googling this stuff, and I learned about all of these diseases, dust diseases, all of these things like pulmonary fibrosis and all of that, and silicosis. And I just Googled for days. And I had convinced myself that we all had these things. I had convinced myself that I was the worst mom in the world because I should have known. I should have either not done these renovations, or we should have been staying for a couple months somewhere else. Everything went through my head. And even though lots of people do renovations, even though lots of people live in their house during renovations, I felt like I was the only one who had ever done it, and that I was the worst mom, and that, like, shame on me, you know? And the guilt began to eat me up to the point where I was physically incapable of doing pretty much anything for about 3 months. My husband had to step in a lot for me. I was so depressed that I couldn't do simple things like clean the house or take care of my kids the way I normally do. I didn't cook a meal, not even one meal. I couldn't do the simplest of tasks. I was clinically depressed, and I felt like my life was over, and I felt like nothing could ever fix this because I didn't deserve to go on, because I exposed my kids to something so harmful. And I am still fighting to get better. And I know nowadays, like, mental health is being talked about a lot more, but in my mind, I didn't believe that I deserved another day to live because of what I put my kids through. And when I think about it now that I've gotten lots of therapy, I go to therapy 2 times a week, I'm learning now that that's a lie. I'm such a good mom, and I love my kids, and I would never expose them to something knowingly. And what I need to do now moving forward is just forgive myself. And that's something I'm still working on. And I'm so hard on myself. And that's the aspect of, like, the OCD, obsessing over these things, obsessing over mistakes, obsessing over information that I learned on Google. And I've talked to lots of people. I've talked to the pediatrician. I've gone to the pulmonologist. I did things that helped me mentally realize, like, hey, like, you guys are not sick. You guys are okay. The kids are okay. They're healthy. Look at them. I've spoken to another person who is an anxiety coach, and she said, you know, whenever you start to worry about everyone's lungs with the dust, because the dust is what really made me spiral. She said, instead, just imagine your kids' lungs so healthy and them growing old. And so now it's me learning how to reframe that, and me not letting this, like, hypochondriac or health anxiety, like, take over. So that has been really hard for me. And there was a day that I sat in my car for about 8 hours, just hysterically crying, and I had panic attacks. And I thought to myself, like, enough is enough. I can't live like this anymore. And I decided right then and there I was going to get on medication. And the thing about health anxiety, and the thing about anxiety in general, is sometimes you have anxiety about anxiety medication. So that was a really hard decision for me to make. And finally I decided, you know what, I'm going to do this. So I started medication about 6 weeks ago. And at first I was like, this isn't working. Like, I'm waking up every single day and I'm crying. I'm waking up every single day and feeling like I don't deserve to live. And finally, I would say about a week ago, I woke up one day and I felt normal. I felt like everything's okay. And it took me a long time. It took me a very, very long time. I even went to the hospital at one point during this whole situation, and I've had a heart monitor put on. It's just been a lot. It's been a lot. And I only share this because I've never heard anyone openly talk about intrusive thoughts or about their depression and anxiety or about feeling like they failed their kids. And I'm sure there's plenty of people out there who talk about this, but it's so, it just changed my life. I'm trying to move past all of this, and I have a new take on life. And I feel like so for example, the psychologist that I spoke to recently said, I want you to think about all the ways that your depression and anxiety are making you grow. And at first I'm like, oh goodness, like if I could go back, I feel like I would have made different choices. Well, she's like, no, I want to know right now with how you're feeling, what you've gone through, how is this helping you grow? And so I really had to reflect on that. And honestly, after getting to a place where I felt like my life was over, being so depressed and just pretty much useless, like there was nothing, I couldn't offer anything to anyone, no value. I couldn't take care of my kids the way I do. I couldn't be there for my husband. And just going through that, I realized how much I love life. And I realized how much I want to live and how much I want to just enjoy the simplest things. So I feel like I have a new appreciation for life is what I'm saying. I've shared a lot about living a simple life, and I've shared a lot about many things. And one thing that I've also learned is that I have to get out and experience life. And I am very much a loner. I've shared that. I love being home. I love being in my own company. And I don't typically pursue lots of friendships or really get out much. But therapy has taught me that that is the worst thing you can do if you're struggling with depression. The worst thing you could ever do is isolate yourself. It actually makes you get deeper into the hole. If you're stressed, that's outside coming in. If you have anxiety, that's inside coming out. So sure, if you're stressed out, there are things you could limit. Maybe you're saying too much, saying yes to too much, or maybe you're doing too much in general. So yeah, you can lessen those things. But when you get to the point that I was at where I wouldn't leave the house unless it was maybe to get groceries, it can become a problem. So now I have a plan. I'm leaving the house every single day. That used to sound very exhausting to me, but now that I know it's good for me and my mental health, I have no problem doing it. I've been doing more things with my kids, and I'm going to therapy 2 times a week. What else? I've had to let go of the expectation. So one of the things that I've learned from being diagnosed with pure OCD is that even though I don't have the typical, like, some people have to like check doorknobs and do this and do that, like they're really obsessed with those types of things, like repetitive behaviors. I have some of that, but my obsession comes from like a different place, and I've learned that I got obsessed with the idea of just having a clean house so that if someone just dropped by unannounced, it would be clean. And you know, no one, first of all, drops in unannounced, and then second, also, if I wanted to do something and my house was dirty, I wouldn't go. I wouldn't want to do it because I'm like, I can't enjoy it because my house is dirty. Or if I would lay on the couch, I'd feel guilty or couldn't enjoy it because my house wasn't the way I wanted it to be. And I had to realize that if something so insignificant is keeping you from living your life, then you have to kind of realize that and stop it. So yes, like today I cleaned the house, but that's because I really needed to. However, if there was an opportunity to go do something today, or I had plans and the house was not clean yet, I would just leave everything as it is, go enjoy life, come back to what I need to do later. And I'm kind of learning this balance of enjoying the moment and still kind of staying on track with my other obligations, but very loosely. Because I'm gonna take every opportunity now to enjoy the things that are outside of these walls. And then I want it to be that I'm enjoying life, but also I'm excited to come home because I've created such a peaceful place. So anyway, there's a lot I could say about all of these things, but I just wanted to share that. If you've been wondering how I've been, that is it. I've been really struggling with really severe depression and anxiety, and it's definitely taken a toll on every area of my life. And I'm so lucky that I have C. John, because when I was at my worst, I was asking him, I was asking him questions, and I was like apologizing to him for just being so absent in a lot of ways. Like I said, I couldn't do much anything. And he reminded me, like, I said I'd be there through sickness and in health. And mental health is so important. And I went through a season of sickness, and he was just there lifting me up, reminding me that I'm okay. And something really good that came out of this is that we went back to church, and I have never been so happy about that. We stopped going to church in 2020. It was right when the pandemic happened, when the churches closed down. And then, you know, a couple months later, I had my baby. And then after that, I had a newborn. So I was like, I don't really want to risk anyone getting sick. And then after that, it just became a kind of like being home on Sundays. Like, we'll go back eventually. And it wasn't until I got super depressed that I was like, I need to go back to church. I need fellowship. I need more of God. I need everything. And I can say that through this whole thing, I've seen God's hand in it, because it's crazy that no matter how many steps you take away from God, let's say you just go the total opposite direction, you just live your life for you and the world and whatever else, you can take as many steps as you want away from God, but it only takes one step to get back. And I felt in this time that God has really wrapped me in his arms, and I have felt his love and I have felt his peace. And I started waking up and reading my Bible and praying scriptures over my life and my family's life, and declaring all of these things that the Bible says over our health and my kids' health. And it has been so healing, because it's the same God that healed people in the Bible, the same God who did it for them can and will do it for us. So as I'm praying these things over, I'm like, you're the same God, you're the same God. And I was praying over my anxiety, like this, I'm like pointing to my table, but you know, like while I'm reading the Bible, I'm like, this is praying this over my life. And my kids are so happy to be in church, and we pray so much with them now that my kids want to pray like 20 times a day. I promise if I let them, they would just be praying every second of the day. And yes, I do let them, but it's constant. And I don't know. So if I have to look at a positive that came out of this, it's that God has been with me through all of this. And I'm not going to be the same Carlene I used to be. I think I'm going to be a better version of myself after this. And I feel like I'm going to be a better mom, a better wife, a better human. And I feel like on so many different levels, I'm just becoming this new person. Yeah, so thank you if you watched this whole video. I know it's just a lot of information about myself. So if you don't know me or are not interested in it and you watched anyway, thank you so much. And this is my season of healing, and I'm feeling so good today. I feel really happy today. So I wanted to share all of this while I could, and I also wanted to encourage anyone who's going through it as well. So I'm going to be sharing just about my life again. And actually, part of my healing journey, my therapist encouraged me to get back on social media as my outlet. Because yes, I'm going to be leaving the house more. Yes, I'm going to be interacting with people more. But this is something that I love to do. I love to communicate and meet people on here that I wouldn't be able to meet in my town. So I will be sharing more, and it's part of my therapy. So I'm going to stick to it. But anyway, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for watching this video, and thank you for everyone who cared enough to ask my husband where I've been and how I'm doing. I'm doing so much better. And everyone here is good. My kids are good, and we got a cat. Her name is Moon, and she's the most beautiful, fluffy black cat ever. So anyway, I will talk to you guys soon, and thank you so much for just all your support and love.